Oi, oi, my back. Oh. Oh, shalom. I did not see you. I hope you will permit me to sit down. I see you are sitting and resting quite comfortably. Not sleeping, I trust. Today is the first day of the week, a working day for me. I have just enjoyed a Shabbat's rest. I was faithful. I did no labor. But lo, here I am, and the work did not go away. But I fear my back is getting too old for this line of work. Yes? You know yes. But I have not properly introduced myself. Quite rude of me. I am Avram, the gardener. What? You do not recognize this? Avram, the gardener of biblical fame. Mary supposing him to be the gardener, but he was not the gardener. But I am the gardener. The gardener she was supposing him to be. But you still look confused. Me too. Oh, what a week. Passover week. Always busy. But this year, oi, oi, oi. Never has there been such a Passover. Yes? You know yes. There were crowds. Soldiers. Roman soldiers. Dirty goys. I hate them. It all started with that parade. This Jesus. What does one think? One day a criminal. The next, a revolutionary. I don't know. I am just a simple man, yes? You know, yes. But Jesus, I was ready to believe him myself. His reputation had been growing for some time. Teacher, rabbi, healer, Mashiach, the Son of God. I don't know, but I liked him. I did. I liked him. But the Pharisees did not like him. No, this parade was not his first trip to Jerusalem. No. He had been here several times before, and every time a confrontation or two or three with the Pharisees. That will make someone like me like you. Chutzpah. The Pharisees, not so much. He had been here several months before in Bethany. And I think that was the last straw. He raised a man from the dead. At least that is the rumor. And I believe it is true for two reasons. The first I will give you now. You see, I am a friend of Lazarus' family. Lazarus, the man he raised from the dead. Well, the gardener for the family is a friend of my wife's brother. They are very rich. You wouldn't expect a man like me to know a man like Lazarus, yes? You know, yes. But I have it on good authority. Lazarus died. Kaput. He was dead. Not just sleeping, as some people have tried to say. They buried him. And Jesus called him out of the grave. Oh, he was popular before, but now he had to virtually go into hiding, is what I have heard. But the Pharisees, they did not like him before, but now, they hated him. You see, before, some people had held him to be a miracle worker. But others had said he was just a popular rabble-rouser. Now, they were saying he was the Son of God, Mashiach. And why should our religious leaders hate Mashiach? Well, if you have the Christ, you do not need a Pharisee, yes? You know, yes. Well, my brother-in-law had told me that he was rumored to have said on that day, and it makes sense now. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. I like it. Well, but he then came down the Mount of Olives under that donkey with the crowds cheering and the children shouting, Hosanna, Hosanna. I think the Pharisees thought their days were numbered. I did too. Like I said, I was ready to believe the things I have heard, if they were true, yes? You know, yes. He was a common man like me, with a common way, but uncommon wisdom. He taught as one having authority, not as though he were trying to gain nor wield authority. He healed the sick. He fed the multitudes. He was a friend to all, except the hypocritical religious rulers. But you know why I liked him best? Because he was a gardener like me. Well, I have heard some people say he was a carpenter, and others have said a shepherd or a fisherman. Nah, I think he was a gardener. Or a farmer, at least. I only heard him a few times, but so many of the things he said stuck with me. Listen, he talked about sowing and reaping, about soil types. He taught about a rich farmer who tore down his barns and built greater ones to hold his harvest, but lost everything when his soul was harvested. He taught about fruit bearing, about pruning trees. He said, you say there are 4 months to the harvest. I say, look at the fields. They are white, all ready to harvest. He said, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it dies, it brings forth much fruit. This was a soil, yes? No, yes. But earlier in the week, as I have said, he swept into town as though he would take it by storm. But he did not. He taught, as was his manner, but then he slipped into the shadows, out of the limelight. And the tide began to turn. Somehow, I do not know, by bribes or trickery, the Pharisees turned things against him. And by the end of the week, they were crucifying him. I could not believe it. You see, I had seen something wonderful the night before. My garden, my master's garden, lies in a vale beneath a hill called Golgotha. It is a lovely place. We have our own olive grove, and we make our own olive oil. I would say it is the best in all of Jerusalem. Except, truth be told, the oil from Gethsemane is a little better, but ours is very good. It is a beautiful garden beneath a hideous hill. More about that later. But on this day, on this night, I was working in a different part of the city. You see, my friend Simeon had been sick and he was needed some help. His master's house is in the southwest corner of the city, near Caiaphas' house, the high priest. They are very rich, and he has a wonderful rooftop garden. I was busy there, doing some watering. Then I heard some men coming up to the rooftop. Then I realized it was Jesus and his disciples. I do not know why I did this, but I ducked into the shadows to hide and listen. He was teaching them. There was a somber mood, and I was riveted, almost against my will, crouching in the shadows. This gardener of mine said he was the vine and they were the branches. They must abide in him to bear fruit. But then he said he was going away. I was astonished. But he said he would send another to teach them, a comforter. He said he was going to his Father, but he would return for them. It was all very confusing. They were confused, and I was confused, yes? You know, yes. And then he wanted to pray. He began to pray for them. His Father. Of course, the Father he was speaking of was God. He poured out his heart to God for these, his disciples. He prayed for them like a priest. Do not take them out of the world, but keep them from the evil. Make them one, as we are one. He was saying that he and God were one. I had to keep listening. When he finished praying, they rose and departed into the city. I followed at a safe distance. There was a quiet mood hanging over them you could almost touch as they traversed the southern end of town with me creeping along in the shadows nearby. They passed the Temple Mount, across the Kidron, into Gethsemane, my second favorite garden. Again, he wanted to pray, but he took only 3 of them and left the others behind. And then he left those 3 and went further. I should not have done so, but I followed. As it turns out, the gardener can move about quite well in the garden. I saw and heard him pray with an agony I have never seen nor heard before. Suddenly, the shame of my spying gripped me, and I began to flee. But there was a great crowd approaching. Soldiers, dirty goys. They were led by the temple guard and some members of the Sanhedrin. And then a man whom he seemed to know came from the crowd and kissed him They seized him and led him away. Gradually, the crowd dispersed, and I was left alone to wonder. The next day, I was working in my own master's garden when I heard a crowd ascending that hideous Golgotha above me. But this was no ordinary crucifixion. No, there was nervousness, tension, fear in the air. There was crying, yes, but there was also shouting. And some people were laughing. Could it be? I climbed a tree to get a better look, and my worst fears were realized. This man I had held to be great, this one I had heard the night before pray to his Father, he stumbled up the hill, a torn and bloody morsel for an angry mob. I quickly climbed down the tree and found work on the other side of the garden, where the cries were more muffled and the soldiers' jeers more distant. The day dragged on until at noon it became impossible to work, not for sorrow, but for darkness. The sun became as black as midnight. I retreated to my house to wait. And then about 3 in the afternoon, there was an earthquake. A solitary voice cried out above the murmurs. And then the sun began to shine again. I went outside and returned to my work. But suddenly there was another commotion. My master, Joseph, returned with his friend Nicodemus. They wanted me to help them. I could not believe this. They wanted me to help them with the body of Jesus. They had taken his body and prepared it for burial. And Joseph, my master, was going to put it in his own new tomb. Some women who were obviously part of his disciples observed all this through heavy weeping as we finally laid his body within the new hewn cave. My master, a respected member of the Sanhedrin, had risked everything for this criminal. Was he a criminal? He was no criminal, yes? You know, yes. The next day, soldiers were dispatched by the Sanhedrin to keep guard over the tomb against theft. On this morning, I was awakened before dawn by an earthquake. It seems the earthquake opened the tomb. There has been a steady stream of visitors coming and going since I first saw the soldiers flee in terror from the tomb's mouth. There is no body. And as I have said, I saw a woman clinging to a man, worshiping him. A man who looked like Jesus. Was it Jesus? And this is the second reason I think he may indeed have raised Lazarus from the dead. I think Jesus may be the resurrection and the life. I think he may be alive. So my garden is quiet again. My master was called to a meeting on the other side of the city, very secretive. I don't understand. I'm just an ordinary man. But this I know. This gardener of mine, this Jesus, he was no ordinary man, yes? You know yes.